Hey everyone, Dr. Laura Jagged here. Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the How to Life podcast. I am glad you're here today to listen to episode 71. I've had the great fortune of meeting the most wonderful people since beginning this podcasting journey. And today's podcast episode is full of quality information and value. Let me start by saying that there are so many paths to take in your life, and many of you are on the college path. It's a great path to be on, but in order to make the most of it and really enjoy the journey, there are some deliberate steps that you can take to make a smooth transition from high school to college and into your career. There's a real need for a guided and organized system that helps students make smart and informed decisions when it comes to the question, what do I want to do with my life? Like basic life skills, there has not been a lot of information and help to get you started and through the college process, but that is beginning to change. My guests today are Beth and Greg Langston. They are successful professionals in their own right, successful parents, and successful entrepreneurs in the business they've created together called the College Flight Plan. Very often, college is extended to 5 or even 6 years or longer, and it's largely due to switching majors and not knowing what you want to do. Many people go into college with the intention of figuring it out while they're there, but it is tremendously expensive to do it this way. And perhaps you don't know that at first because you've just got money there from your student loans. But those loans can become a ball and chain that follow you around long after you've left college if you don't have a definite plan in place ahead of time. The College Flight Plan is a process that allows you to discover and identify things about yourself before you enter college so that you have a more direct and solid foundation from the start. This is just wonderful. I wish it was around when I was younger or even when my own children were college bound. I am very excited to share this interview with you. Welcome, Greg and Beth. Thank you very much for being on the How to Life podcast. I'm so happy to have you both here.
Well, it's our pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely, Laura.
This is a hot topic, I'd say. There are a lot of audience members that I have that are young, many who are considering going to college or feel confused in life and they don't know how to find their path. And you have some information about that. Before we get into the questioning, will you please both introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, I am Beth Langston, and I have a degree in education from Purdue University.
I'm Greg Langston. I have a degree in international business from Purdue University, and we met in college.
You've been working together on this College Flight Plan. Will you tell us a little bit about that right now?
Yes, it stemmed from our experiences raising our own children. We actually raised them overseas for most of their K through 12 education. Then we knew we needed to get back to the States for the end of middle school to prepare them for the college application process, which starts freshman year in high school. So the problem was we got back here and we found that nobody was preparing kids for college. They were academically preparing them, and they could take on the college courses, but they weren't preparing them for what they wanted to study, to learn their goals and all the other parts of the college application process. So as an educator and an international executive, Greg was getting a lot of training from different corporations that would equip him with the skills to lead companies. And he kept saying, why did I have to wait 20 years to get these courses and these skills and this coaching? And why is nobody teaching this to our teens? So we decided to start our own training of teens, starting with our own teens, to learn these skills that would help them become better leaders, to develop the tools. It led to workshops with our kids' friends and then workshops in the area where we lived for high school students. And it was very positive.
We started that 20 years ago.
That was 20 years ago. That's right. Gosh.
What sort of skills did you learn in your own job that you thought you can then apply to your teenage kids and other college-bound students?
Well, I found the fact that when you're an individual contributor, you have certain responsibilities and certain skills that are required. But then once you have the responsibility of managing people and then leading and inspiring them, it needs additional skill sets. And so when I went from managing 100 people to 1,000 to 5,000 to 9,000 eventually, and over $1 billion, it required me to have to learn a lot of skills that we then put into these tools, both from my perspective as a business person and Beth's perspective as an educator. This is how we put these tools together.
Can you tell us a little bit what kind of tools you learned that apply to the college-age student?
Sure. For example, we tell them how they need to determine what their values are and why a value or a core belief is important and how you will use that in your daily life. And so we teach them, it's similar to a tree. If you would visualize a tree with a root system, you have a very strong root system, which are your values, your core belief. Then supporting that is your purpose in terms of what is your why. And then after that, you have your goals. And so we basically built the tools around those processes or those key components, the values, the purpose, understanding your strengths and weaknesses, and so forth.
And that's what you mean by a flight plan. Many young people go into college, they go into life without having any type of plan. They just jump without a parachute and hope to figure it out as they go along. And they usually do, but a lot of mistakes are made. A lot of tears are shed, perhaps. So this helps the person kind of identify a path that they can take as they head towards what they're going to do in the future.
Laura, you're exactly right. You know, a flight plan, the key to a successful flight plan is that the plane arrives on time, it's safe, and that the airline makes money. So there's a pre-flight ritual. You know, how many times do you see when you get on a plane, you see the pilot walk around the airplane, look at the wings, look at the engines and the flaps and so forth. They check the instruments to make sure they have enough fuel. And then during the flight, they have a planned destination, a planned route they will follow, a flight duration, and a certain amount of fuel consumption. And so without that flight plan, there's no guarantee that a plane's going to fly or that we'll run out of fuel before getting to the destination. And so we use that to build the college flight plan using that same principle, so that the key to a successful and enjoyable college experience is to complete it in 4 years, not in 6 years, which 60% of students do. 60% of graduating students graduate in 6 years, which is an awful lot of money. So the pre-flight ritual for a college student would be determine your personal core values, as I mentioned. What are your personal strengths and weaknesses? You determine what your purpose is, what your why is. You determine what college major best suits these strengths, is all your discovery process that you go through. And then once you're in flight, if you will, you have a planned destination, which is, I'm going to study this and I'm going to study in this school. I want to graduate in 4 years, which is your time frame for graduation. And you want to make it at a certain expense, if you will. You don't want to go beyond your 4-year time frame.
You don't want to go over
otherwise
budget.
That contributes to college debt, which is now $1.7 trillion.
Oh my goodness. Well, I love the analogy that you gave to compare the college flight plan with an actual flight plan. Now, a lot of people go into college thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to figure it out in college. Why is that a bad idea?
Well, because then it's going to cost a lot more money, first of all, and it's going to take you longer to figure it out. You're going to change majors probably 3 or 4 times. You'll probably be in school for 6 years. So we recommend, the first thing we say is start early. The problem is so many people wait until senior year. Many of them wait till senior year to get going.
Kids don't understand the value of money. And all of a sudden they are strapped with this burdensome debt.
Right. And the sad thing is that in a graduating class, like Greg said, 40% of those kids have been at school for 4 years. 60% of those graduates have been at school for 6 years. And their main reason is because they change majors.
A key statistic also is that 60% of the college students change majors 3 times.
That's too long and too expensive. And young people don't understand that you have to pay that back, and that is going to follow you around for a long time. They aren't taught that in school. They may not even be taught that by their parents, because perhaps the parents don't know. They don't understand that.
The whole cost of college, not just the tuition, but the room and the board, books, fees. In state, it's an average of $27,000 a year. Private colleges are $50,000 to the Ivy Leagues that are $80,000 a year. So if you're adding another couple years on because you couldn't figure out what you really wanted to do that spoke to your strengths and your interests early enough, then you're going to be saddled with that huge college debt. So we want to provide that for kids who want to find out what they're all about, what their purpose is.
This is such an important thing that you say here, because even if you go to college to try to, quote, figure it out, if you haven't identified what your values are, what you are about, you're going to flounder around and may still exit college not quite knowing what your values are. So you are kind of heading that off at the pass when you do your college flight plan so that you have that awakening. I know who I am. I know what I am at my core and what I ultimately want.
We were speaking to somebody recently, Laura, and she goes, I love the name College Flight Plan because it is a flight plan. I want them to take flight away from home. I don't want them to come back to my basement.
Oh, that's true. It's very true. I think we see more and more these days, young people coming back home because they didn't quite take off. I don't think that happened in older generations, mine and my parents and beyond. Like once you left, you got going and you just kept going. What sort of problems do students have in the college application process and selecting a major? Have you noted what the stumbling blocks are?
The first thing is they're starting too late. They need to be aware of their academics and their extracurriculars and their community service projects freshman year. Even the summer before freshman year, you can count those activities in what you're doing and what goes on your resume and in your application. But they also assume that the high schools are going to guide them through this whole process. And the thing is, the counselors are spread too thin. The average amount of students to one counselor is 424 students to one counselor. They recommend 250. In California, we have close to 700 per high school counselor. Yeah. So you're not going to get the attention you need unless you're a very squeaky wheel. And so by the time you realize that the counselor is not getting it all done or doesn't have the time to get it all done, then you're pretty late in the process. The other thing is the students sometimes think, oh, I can do it all myself. But when you're doing things like writing an essay, because that's what's going to make you stand out, you need to get some other eyes on your essay. Oh, I had a great student who was so qualified. She had already applied to all her colleges. She had great grades. Her community involvement was wonderful. She and a group of friends were meeting the needs in the community and developing websites to help people. It was wonderful. And she gave me her original essay. She was on a wait list to one of her favorite schools. And being on a wait list is a good thing. That means you qualify for the school, but they just don't have room because they can't take every kid with good grades and good scores and a good essay. But when I saw her essay that she had submitted to all these colleges that she was getting rejected from, in the first paragraph, there were errors, grammatical errors. And the admissions officers only have about 12 minutes per application to decide yay or nay. And so if they're looking at that first paragraph and they see errors, they're going to put you in the nay pile, a lot of them. So I just try to say you've got to get help outside.
Yeah. There are no classes in high school. There's not a class that is called college application where they teach you how to do all of this. You kind of are thrown into it and have to do it on your own.
Some schools are starting to do that now because they know there's a basic need, but it's more instructional on the information that you need to put into your application and where to find it, how to ask for your transcripts, how to get your recommendation letters and things like that. They need to start earlier than that class that comes at the end of junior year or senior year when they're already in it. And the families really need to take ownership to start earlier and get help with the different areas of like test prep. ACT, SAT, get help. There are strategies to these tests that you won't learn just by taking practice tests. You have to learn how to use your time very wisely in those. And then essay editing is also a very clear help that people need, even though they might be great writers. You still need someone looking at it, because the essay editors, that's something I do. We know what the admission officers are looking for from each student. And it's not an English class essay. It is definitely a different type of essay. And so get help with those. And also scholarships. Seek out scholarships from those people who know where to find them, because there's millions of dollars of scholarships that go unrewarded every year because nobody knows they're there. Nobody applies for them. So
there are a lot of moving parts in the college application
yes.
process, and you can't possibly be an expert in each one. That is why something like College Flight Plan is good. It kind of brings it all together. You have a place where you can go for answers in all these different areas. And I want to talk about something that is a core feature, I believe, of your course, and that's called the self-discovery courses. I want you to talk more about that. Will you please?
Sure. The self-discovery courses are a 3-phase process that the student goes through. It's self-paced. It's all done online. And one of the courses takes about 12 hours to complete, but they can do it in microlearning chapters, if you will. The average video is about 2.5 minutes long. So realizing the audience that you're working with, the last thing they want to do and the last thing they have time to do is listen to a 1-hour video. These are 2.5-minute videos where the students go through the program, and they also select an accountability partner that will help them complete the course. And so the first phase is discovery, where they determine what their core values are. They then go through a 360 strengths and weakness assessment, where they choose up to 8 different people who will provide them insights into their strengths and weaknesses, what majors they should choose, what they do well, what they don't do well, what are some of their particular skills. They then determine what their purpose statement is. We take them step by step to determine what their purpose statement is. We don't tell them what it is. They discover it on their own. I just had a conversation earlier today with a student who was telling me, I just interviewed with a company and they asked me who I am and what am I all about. And I just thought, okay, my purpose statement is this. My values are these. These are my strengths. He says, Greg, it was amazing. I was able to answer the questions off the top of my head, which was very great to hear. But then the student goes through and determines their aspirational goals, which are in 4 success elements. One is health, wealth, wisdom, and relationships. So they have a tremendous amount of discovery. With that information, they then determine their 5-year goals and their 1-year goals. They then can effectively choose their major, which then allows them to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is where I'm going to go study. And they use their growth mindset, which is a very important component of our program. They create a compelling elevator speech. So when they come into contact with a college admissions advisor, they're able to speak eloquently, what differentiates them. And then they also develop a summary document, which they then share with their parents and their accountability partner to say, this is what I've learned in the program. The parent does not have to pull this out of the student. The student actually proactively goes and tells them what they are going to do, and they incorporate that into the key application essays that Beth was speaking about.
I love that. And I have a question for you. Have you ever encountered a parent-child that comes to these classes, and the parent has the tendency to want to answer the questions for the child because the parent has in their mind what they want their child to do, and the child may not have a say in it? How do you work around that?
I have encountered many. I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes parents can actually blow the chances for their student. But in our course, the good thing is the student goes through it by themselves. And then when they present to their parents, they know they've done this discovery, and the parents usually are very pleased, amazed, surprised. Many parents say, oh my gosh, I thought I knew my son so well. And after listening to this, there are sides of you that I didn't even know before. It's really a beautiful thing. We love doing this.
And, to that very point, they have a foundation that's based upon their self-discovery, where they can go to their mom or dad and say, Dad, I know you've been a doctor and mom's a doctor and everybody's been a doctor. But if you look at the feedback I received from you and everybody else, from my 8 different contributors, and the assessments that I've taken through this program, could I be a doctor? Yes. Am I passionate about being a doctor? No. This is what I'm passionate about. And these are the facts, and these are the figures, and these are the insights that I have. Please allow me to do what I'm passionate about. Yeah. And we found that the student goes through a transformation that provides them with the clarity in knowing their values and strengths, the confidence in clearly being able to articulate to their parents and others what makes them unique. And they have a sense of control over, this is what I want to do, and this is my actionable plan.
Based on that example you just gave, if that something like that happens, you have just saved the individual 15 years of education, and probably $500,000 for that education before they realize at age 34, I don't want to do this.
I'll give you an interesting data point that speaks exactly to that. A recent study in 2019 said that 87% of people that are between the ages of 16 and 29 do not have a purpose or do not have an understanding of what their meaning is in life.
And that's because they don't know their core values. They never thought about them, never thought about what they're good at. No one has ever told them. So College Flight Plan can really save so much time and money and aggravation and heartache, and get you on a path of joy headed towards a direction where you want to be.
Absolutely. That's our hope.
That's our goal. Yes.
What are 5 tips you can give to any student who is embarking on the college application process? Even if they're in the 9th grade, that they know where they want to head, what can they start doing now to sort of move in the right direction?
Okay, I think the first one, we've alluded to it, but you can't emphasize it enough, is to start early. Do not wait until your junior or senior year. That's too late. You need to seek opportunities for self-discovery, to learn what makes you unique. You need to learn how to set and achieve clear goals. We teach students how to develop SMART goals. You need to develop a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, because teens adopt for themselves a view based upon how other people are considering them. And with social media, you can see how that can be debilitating. And so if you can encourage a student to have a growth mindset and say, you don't know this yet, that's the most important word, yet, you can figure it out, that's very empowering for a student. And then 5th, I would say, is that a family has to help a student to select an accountability partner. I'll give you another interesting statistic. If you write a goal down, the probability of success is greater than if you don't write it down. If you share it with somebody else, the probability is 65% that you'll accomplish your goal. If you have an accountability partner, that probability increases to 95%. So those would be my 5.
Actually, it sounds completely possible. It's very soothing when you have a plan. It just gives you this sense of relief. You're not just out there, a leaf in the wind, wondering where you're going to be blown next. Will you please tell us about your courses, how to find you, and all that you offer?
Absolutely. You can find our self-discovery courses and our other services, editing particularly, at www.collegeflightplan.com. And Laura, for your listeners, we've created a special document called the Parents Starter Kit to Teen Self-Discovery. It's a comprehensive 26-page document that includes key statistics parents need to know when their students are going into college. It shares the top 5 early actions that lead to college success. We've included some free assessments that we recommend, as well as ACT and SAT test preparation resources that are very, very good. Beth mentioned earlier about the scholarship opportunities and the cost there. We've included that information in there as well. And it also includes information on how to get in contact with us.
That is wonderful and very generous. Thank you so much for offering that to my audience. I'm definitely going to post all that and the links and everything about you in my show notes.
Wonderful. And the link for the last document is collegeflightplan.com/guide.
Great. Beth, Greg, I cannot thank you enough for coming on this show and sharing all this information with everyone. I wish you were around when I was going into college, even when my kids were, because I felt overwhelmed even when my own children were going into college.
It's our pleasure. We know it can be very stressful if you've never gone through this before. So we are here to help and ease the stress.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Take care.
Can you see how important it is to figure some things out about yourself sooner than later? You'll find that when you ask yourself the right questions, you have the answers and you discover what makes up your foundation. And having a solid foundation is always a great place to launch from. Head to the website www.collegeflightplan.com if you want to learn more. Are you ready to do some self-discovery right now? You can take the first step by downloading the free guide that Greg and Beth have created for you called the Parent Starter Kit to Teen Self-Discovery. This link shares more detail about what they covered today. It also includes their top 5 early actions that lead to college success, which helps your teen, or you, if you are that teen or young adult, stay on track for the future. Head over to collegeflightplan.com/guide to get that for yourself. That link and all the contact information for Beth and Greg Langston can be found in the show notes at howtolife.com/071. If you are headed to college, here are some episodes that I've done that you might find valuable. I think you'll really like episode 60, which is about discovering your path and living life on purpose with Joe Elliott of thepurposeproject.org. In episode 43, college and career counselor Rick Palo tells you how to get college scholarships and grants. Episode 51 explains how volunteering can help you learn what you like, provides those community service hours that are needed to get into college, and can even get you scholarships. I feel like there are some questions brewing here. I'm happy to help or direct you to the help that you need. You can contact me through my website, howtolife.com. You can also send me a direct message on Instagram at LauraJaggett_howtolife or Facebook, Laura Jaggett. And by all means, please recommend the show to anyone who could benefit from this information. Share it, like it, and subscribe to all my platforms. Thank you for listening today. I hope this was helpful. If so, please hit the 5-star rating button before you go. That would be very kind of you. Thank you. So until next time, I am wishing you peace and purpose. Start thinking about your purpose. Discover yourself. Have a great and productive week, everybody. You got this.